Okay, everyone, it looks like we have a number of attendees here, and probably some will continue trickling in. Thank you so much for joining Building Markets today for our webinar on the important role of small businesses and other upstream actors in the circular economy. I'm Allison Anderson. I work on the research and impact team at Building Markets. And for those of you who are learning about Building Markets for the first time, we're an NGO that works with small businesses around the world to find and verify operations, build small business capacity, and connect small businesses to investment and contract opportunities. We worked with small businesses in Turkey, Myanmar, Jordan, Afghanistan, Liberia, and Haiti for almost 2 decades. And to date, we have helped businesses create over 73,000 jobs, assisted them in winning over $1 billion in contracts, and helped businesses secure over $21 million in loans. Our team in Myanmar focuses on building the capacity of small businesses in the recycling sector. And so through this work, we've learned a lot and continue to learn about how the private sector is helping cities and communities develop climate resilience. So to do that, we've been investing in helping businesses integrate circular economy principles into their own business practices, including the development of a circular economy toolkit for small businesses and raising awareness about the essential role small businesses play in the circular economy. So to that end, with that work that we've been doing in Myanmar, we're happy to kick off what we hope will be an informative and lively discussion on the circular economy. Joining us today is Eva Morales, who will set the stage with a short background of the circular economy and the role that small businesses play in the circular economy. Then we'll have an interactive discussion with Eva, Dennis Schaefer from Prevent Plastics, and hopefully our partner, Inda Aung So, who's the co-founder of Bokhashi in Myanmar. It'll depend on sort of his internet situation and his ability to join the webinar later on today. We'll welcome questions from the audience throughout the discussion, which you can submit through the chat function or the question and answer function. We'd love if you shared your name and your organization or your interest in the event with your questions. To get us started, Eva Morales is the founder and CEO of Circular Advisors. She has over 15 years of experience in sustainability and the circular economy in both the private and the not-for-profit sectors. She's worked with NGOs and multinational organizations in energy, finance, technology, and professional services, as well as managing international development programs. Eva founded Circular Advisors, a consulting firm with a mission to promote and champion a circular economy vision for businesses and society. She's also the chief editor and co-founder of Hive Forum, a think tank and advisory group bridging academic research to business action for a sustainable future. She completed her postgraduate studies in sustainability business leadership at Cambridge University and is currently a leader in the Circular Economy and Sustainable Strategies Executive Education Program at Cambridge. Eva is also an advisor to SMEs and startups tackling climate change. So Eva, thank you so much for joining us today and setting the stage on the circular economy.
Thank you so much, Alison, for a great introduction. And I'm thrilled to be here to talk about a passion of mine, which is the circular economy. And now I'm going to share my screen, so bear with me for just 1 second while I do that, and we can get started. Hopefully that looks like it should. Not if it doesn't.
That looks great. Thanks, Eva.
So great. Again, so thank you so much for inviting me to participate. You aligned very important topics that need careful attention if we are to create a stronger and more resilient future and inclusive, sustainable for all. So just to give you a little bit of sort of background information, a system change for sustainable development. And sustainable development calls for a real radical change in the way business and society operates today. because our natural resources are limited and our current linear economic system of take, make, and throw away depletes natural resources. Earth Overshoot Day this year will fall on the 28th of July. And this means that in 7 months alone, we would have used the biological resources the planet can generate in just 1 year. So we are using 1.8 planets every year. So this is, if we think about overproduction, overconsumption, and poor management of resources, they're putting an immense pressure on our ecosystems, our economy, and also on society. There are serious challenges, and our current wasteful economic system is a significant concern for all. We face pressing issues such as biodiversity loss, water security, and climate change. We've seen recently with events such as wildfires, floods, and droughts that will continue to increase. And these events affect the most vulnerable sectors of society. We will need rapid urbanization and population growth now will intensify the need for more resources to meet the demands for new infrastructure, new housing and transportation. Plastic production, for example, and waste have increased dramatically since 1950. And it is expected that plastic waste will triple to nearly 29 million metric tons by 2050. So as you can see from these estimates, there is a clear correlation between overproduction, overconsumption, and climate change, because we generate over 2 billion tons of waste per year, of which 33% is not managed. So we can do much better. So if we listen to science, we must reach climate positive by 2050. And we need to reduce emissions and go beyond reduction of emissions to look at a nature-based solution. So it makes no sense to continue with a system that harms natural capital and threatens society, the global economy, and our way of life. So indeed, there is a better way. And the good news is that we do not need to compromise growth. Decoupling growth from consumption drives a more sustainable economic model. The circular economy is one that promotes the reuse, repair, remanufacture, and recycling of products and materials. This way, we maximize the value of resources and limit the extraction of virgin resources. It promotes clean energy inputs. It protects nature from harm and reduces environmental pressures, such as pollution and biodiversity loss. In summary, the circular economy is a regenerative system by design. It builds on regenerative capitalism, which is an economic system that focuses more on people, the planet, and prosperity. So in essence, the circular economy looks at how materials flow in the economy and how we use them. And the principles of the circular economy are to eliminate waste and pollution. This means that we will avoid any activity that causes harm to nature or human health, such as greenhouse gas emissions or the use of chemicals and pesticides or any other type of sort of hazardous products or substances that pollute our air, water, and land. The other principle will be to keep materials and products in the loop or in use for as long as possible. Means extracting the highest value from products and resources. This includes labor that goes into the manufacturing of products, the energy that we use, the water and the raw materials. And so this means that under circular economy principles, we will design products with durability in mind, with renewable materials that are easy to repair, to reuse, remanufacture, and recycle, so that products don't leak out of the system and into the environment. And thirdly, we look at regenerative nature or our natural capital through the use of renewable energy, replacing dependency on fossil fuels, the use of renewable materials, encouraging the return of nutrients to the soil through regenerative agriculture, and so on, to protect land and ecosystems. But circular economy business models are not new, and we know this. We used to share, we used to repair and reuse in the past. So we can go back to the past and use best practice together with the technology advances of today. So we learn from the past to move for a stronger future. But who are the main players in the circular economy and why everyone matters? Because the circular economy needs collaboration for it to work efficiently and in harmony. So here we need entrepreneurs that foster innovation and technology development. Now, entrepreneurs and SMEs might have some constraints and face certain barriers, such as access to financing, for example, but they have the agility to innovate faster, so it's important to support them. For this, we need finance institutions to direct impact investment, green loans, and direct more investment towards clean tech and circular economy business models of innovation that ultimately will accelerate a transition for a more sustainable and resilient economy. And then we have the role of large multinationals and industry. It's also essential as they have the resources and influence to be catalysts for change on a much larger scale. They also can form partnerships or direct more investment and commitments to the promotion of innovation and sustainability strategies. And this means that going beyond emissions reductions, because we're focusing so much about emissions reductions, sometimes we forget. So we need to look at nature-based solutions and also water stewardship and circular economy solutions that will add that shared value to become net positive, not just net zero. And then we can think about the public sector and national and local authorities that can help drive that policy change and implement, for example, waste management infrastructure development projects, innate policies to increase resource efficiency, and regulate energy efficiency under a revised eco-design directive. These are some examples. Also promote the integration of value change with the adoption of global standards for sustainable products, policy labeling, and so on. And then again, quite important, extend the scope of best practice on production and waste management processes for circular economy and improve related information sharing among small and medium sized enterprises. And then we have academia, of course, that can support through scientific research as well as through preparing and educating leaders to integrate sustainable strategies within their organizations. And then the role of NGOs, such as building markets, as catalysts to help promote and engage in areas such as reduction of plastic, promoting zero waste campaigns, and supporting and harnessing entrepreneurs through technical assistance to facilitate a transition to more sustainable practices for SMEs, in particular in developing economies. In summary, for an efficient systemic change, we need to align and build a collaborative environment that promotes innovation, incentives, impact financing, and policy development, as well as behavior change, moving from short-term gain to long-term development. And quickly, I'll talk about the private sector and why it's so important. And what is sort of the business case for the private sector? So the private sector has an enormous opportunity here to create long-term value and unlock what we hear as a $4.5 trillion of economic opportunity to drive social and environmental benefits. Because using finite resources and letting them become waste makes absolutely no sense. So sectors such as industry, agriculture, and the built environment, or for example, transport, are real heavy emitters of greenhouse gas emissions. The built environment alone, according to recent research by the World Resource Institute, consumes 40% of total natural resources globally and generates 40% of waste. So here, integrating circular economy business models to reduce, repair, repurpose, remanufacture, and recycle materials is essential. So we can think, for example, business models that look at product as a service or product sharing, where the use of products is shared by many people, intensifying the usage and increasing the value, extending the lifespan of products or upcycling or using circular procurement. So these are some kind of examples. But again, the private sector has also an important role in the long-term investment and research and development for infrastructure and technology development. And very important now, we will talk about the SMEs and what is the role of SMEs in the circular economy. They are the backbone of our economy, as we often hear, or as I like to call them, the heart of it, because they represent about 90% of businesses in the world and more than 50% of employment worldwide. And in developing economies, they are responsible for 70% of GDP. But on the other hand, manufacturing SMEs are reported to account for 64% of air pollution. So it's important here that they are included in the conversation for an effective transition to more sustainable practices and operations. So supporting micro, small, medium enterprises in their sustainability transformation and journey will help develop a much greener economy. And this indeed is critical to meet the UN Sustainable Development Goals while future-proofing their businesses. So there are some circular elements of action that needs to consider through the life cycle of products and materials. And it is important to sort of bring together the whole value chain here, from the moment that we design, procurement, production, distribution, consumption, and recovery. So this is key for SMEs to consider. So again, we need everyone at the table, and supporting SMEs will ensure a more equitable and just system that benefits us all. And with that, I will stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Eva. Really appreciate the helpful introduction and for setting the stage for our discussion today. Given building markets work in the recycling sector in Myanmar, we're really excited to have at least one panelist with us today, and hopefully another will be able to join working in the country to speak more about their work in the country and the crucial role their organizations play in the circular economy. So Dennis, we'd love to begin with you. If you could give us, tell us a bit about your background and about your organization and your work in Myanmar.
Thanks, Alison, and thank you, Eva, for this very good introduction to the circular economy. I also prepared just some slides, so please let me just share my screen with you very quick. So. Can you still hear me?
We can hear you. We can't see your slides just yet.
I think.
Oh, we can see them now.
Okay. Yeah, my name is Dennis Schäfer. I'm right now working from Germany, but usually I'm based in Myanmar. Unfortunately, as maybe some of the participants know, in Myanmar we had a political transition around 1.5 years ago, and the country has still some impacts and some safety risks due to this. I want to give you a very brief overview about our project in Myanmar about Prevent Plastics. Prevent Plastics is a 4-year a project with a duration of 4 years, which is founded by the EU. And we started in May 2020, and it is planned to continue until April 2024. Prevent Plastic, the lead partner who is implementing, is Sequa GmbH, which is a German non-profit organization which is specialized to implement development projects in developing countries. In total, we had already over 800 projects which we implemented so far in actually every continent of this planet. Our partners for the project is the Myanmar Banks Association, with whom we are working on green loans, especially in combination with sustainable waste management. Then Tent Myanmar, which is a local NGO with whom we are doing community work, and Stenum Asia, which is our technical partners from India, who are giving us the technical expertise which we need for this project. And the main associate is the City Markt Holding, which is the biggest retailer in the country. This is a supermarket chain in the country, the biggest one. We also had associates from the governmental departments, but due to the political tensions, we stopped the cooperation for now with them. So right now we only have one project associate. The project design and the overall objective, also like Eva already mentioned in her presentation, the resources on this planet are limited and we don't have infinite resources. So therefore, our overall project objective is the promotion of sustainable production and consumption patterns in Myanmar. And we are planning to achieve this actually with the 3 pillars, as I call them. The first one is actually the adoption of sustainable waste management practices, especially in MSMEs, also in micro, small, medium enterprises. But we also swifted this partly, so we are also doing this now in communities and in other urban areas. So here also we have a cooperation with Building Markets in Myanmar, which I'm very happy to share. So with Building Markets, we are working on a waste exchange platform where we actually want to connect the polluters, also the SMEs, with the waste recyclers and the waste pickers, and to promote also here a little bit more from the waste management perspective, the circular economy, that to promote more the recycling. We are also going to the SMEs, and we are making some waste assessments. We are checking what kind of resources are being used and try to give them some corrective action plans that they can minimize the resources which they are using or which they are wasting. The second pillar is the increased availability of eco-friendly packaging, which is also more easy to recycle. Also, it can be also some plastic packaging, which is maybe containing of only one plastic type, that it's becoming more easy to recycle. And we want to make it more available for the consumers and producers. In this pillar also, we are trying to work with the Myanmar Banks Association that they are offering more green loans, that the SMEs can scale up their businesses when they are investing in more circular approaches. And last but not least is what is also very important, the behavior change through increasing awareness on waste reduction and especially plastic prevention. Where we are making where we are making different campaigns for the public, but where we are also trying to increase the awareness of factory workers and also of SMEs. Many factory owners or many SMEs are not also aware of this of the problems, and this is also a cooperation point where we are cooperating with Building Markets in the country. So that was a very short introduction to our project, what we are doing. You can also visit our internet site if you would like to know more. And with this, I want to thank you and give the word back to you, Alice.
Thank you so much, Janice. It's really great to hear about what's happening with Prevent Plastics and the work that you're doing in Myanmar. So appreciate you giving us that background. I'm going to start with a couple of questions for our panelists, but I'd love to open up the conversation for a discussion. So for attendees, please do submit questions in the Q&A box and share your name and organization or your interest in the topic there, please. To get us started, Ava, could you tell us a little bit more about some of the business arguments and the business case for the circular economy? And you're on mute, thanks.
I don't know why. I thought that would happen. Sorry. So indeed, thank you, Alison, and thank you, Dennis, for your presentation as well, and the great work you're doing with building markets in Myanmar. So the business case for the circular economy, I would say, and I kind of start with giving you sort of thinking about economic improvement. And we know that UN has estimated that 1/3 of food production, for example, just to start talking about food, and I know we had a representative here today, so I want to focus on that for a second. In terms of food production, is equivalent of 1.3 billion tons worth of it is actually being wasted every year and end up being rotten in bins of consumers and retailers, or is being spoiled through transportation and harvesting practices. So what this statistics is significant, and it could be significantly reduced. And it's an economic opportunity to use that waste that could be avoided with better systems. Do we have better systems? Then it's an economic argument. And for SMEs, the business case is to help reduce production cost and increase productivity gains as well, and minimize resource efficiency. So if we use less resources, then we're cutting on cost. And from that point of view, reducing production can reduce on cost and also increase that productivity. So it could also open new business opportunities, new markets, and additional benefits if we think about new business models that we can implement. There has many then we're talking obviously about economic activities, but if we bring also social aspects to it, and the way we create more job creation, improve livelihoods, bring that equality and inclusion so no one is left behind. So we're going to have also healthier communities by avoiding waste going into water streams and rivers and oceans that at the end of the day also affects our food chain. So it's about having the argument of the economic argument that it's cost reduction, it opens opportunities, but it also preserves our nature and also society and improves those livelihoods.
Thank you, Eva. Dennis, could you speak about the support that SMEs need to move into the circular economy? And also, how do we measure impact?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, I think, especially from our work in Myanmar, it's very important that, first of all, the SMEs really understand the problem and understand why we need the transition to the circular economy. And there is the knowledge, first of all, which is needed. And also, like most of the SMEs, actually, when we are going to the production and then when we see what they are classifying as waste, first of all, waste is actually like a label. These are like all the resources which is coming from the beginning to the production, which are then a lot of through the input of other resources, they are being shaped, and in the end we have the product. And the more efficient we do this, the less resources we are actually wasting, and the more money in the end the SMEs are also saving. And when we go into the SMEs and when we check their production flow and when we identify really the bottlenecks and the problems which they have, so in the end they also actually they receive a consultation from us how much money alone they could save in just reducing the waste which they are creating, and this already leads, also most of the actions or most of the points which we are suggesting them to change, they are being immediately changed in the production, because in the end they are, without investing much money, they are saving a lot of money. So it's also for the business owners a very easy calculation. So I think what is definitely important is that the SMEs and that they get really input, that they also see about how other SMEs are doing this, maybe from the same field, and what is happening in other countries, that we have like a exchange of knowledge on this topic. I think that is really important because it's you can identify actually similar approaches for companies who are working in similar fields, and which can be also implemented in other SMEs as well. Also, some SMEs need help or some SMEs need a push maybe in the right direction when it's about product design. I had this very shortly, especially when we are talking about recycling. Actually, we have many different kind of plastics. Some of them are more easily to recycle. Some of them are more difficult to recycle. What is nearly impossible to recycle, or where you normally have to really, when you segregate the waste, sometimes you have like a yogurt, box, and then you have to separate actually all the layers of plastic, because this plastic is recyclable, this not. So, and this actually, when we are honest, nobody is doing this. So it's already helping when the companies are maybe using only one type of plastic, and then that it's more easily to recycle. So what we are doing here also is to give advice to the companies for some new design ideas and how they could change and to make the product more easy to recycle for the consumers. Also, what is very important, and what also Eva just mentioned, is we have to give. There are many new business opportunities in this circular economy and in this transition actually in which we are right now. So what we have to do is to collect the business ideas and to give also some business ideas to the SMEs or to people to entrepreneurs who are interested to start a business, to really make sure that to show them there is a business case, there is also money inside. You can earn money. It's not only for publicity or for greenwashing purposes. Actually, there is also really money to earn in a good way, in a sustainable way, and this is also important. And of course, one of the most important supports which the SMEs can get in the end is also the financial support. That's why it's also important to work together with the financial institutes to make sure that there are some credits, which especially companies who are investing in a more green and environmental friendly production, these companies, that they can access it also, and that they have some benefits out of this credits. So here are also international, a lot of different supporters actually from many governmental institutions, governments or institutions who are providing these funds. And for us, for example, in Myanmar, it was very good that we had the cooperation with the Myanmar Banks Association, because we could help them to improve their products in this direction, that they can give the credits really that the SMEs, that the credits are more attractive for the SMEs, and with this we were able also to help some SMEs to upscale their business or to make some investments in this direction. So I think this all is needed as a support to the SMEs to secure the transition. And how to measure the impact here, of course, I also want to come a little bit to the topic waste management, since it's also the topic of our project. But I think waste monitoring in a factory or in a SME is actually a very good way to measure the impact of the actions which a company is implementing. Because in a perfect circular economy, let's say, there would be nearly zero waste, because we are using the resources again and again. If we are able, we are making upscaling. This means the product is not coming to the point, or the resources are not coming to the point where we would classify them as waste. So when the SMEs would implement a really good waste monitoring system in their in their companies, in their factories, wherever, and where they could really see, okay, why this waste is happening and how I can change this, how I can improve this, that we have less waste. Or even, of course, it's impossible to have zero waste, but to say, okay, now I have the waste, but what I can do with this? Can I recycle this somehow? Can I sell it to some other companies? Can I do something else with this? Like, for example, a waste to energy approach, which is definitely also interesting for some bigger companies, which are also doing this. And maybe even if you cannot reduce the waste, or if you cannot somehow use it for something different, that you are trying to recycle the waste. And if you have this approach, and if you can nearly minimize your waste, I think then you are on the right direction. And then you have a good tool also how to measure if your actions which you are implementing are really working and meaningful, or what to improve. Thanks.
Thank you. Something that I think you both mentioned and touched on, but I'm curious to hear a little bit more about, is how can SMEs drive consumer behavior change and promote sustainable consumption?
Okay, maybe I will start if it's okay. If for SMEs, also the behavior change doesn't necessarily have to come from the SMEs, in my opinion. I think everyone is or most of the people are aware, are seeing also all the happenings right now with the climate change, and also with the global warming. Now we have really the signs that this is happening, that it's not only a theory on paper. And I think everybody has also the tools with internet or with some other resources really to inform himself and to see also what we can do locally. What the SMEs maybe really more have to focus is also to see the demand in the market, that more sustainable products are needed, that a more circular approach is needed, and somehow to fulfill this demand. This means then to change hopefully their production practices, to change the packaging, to change their the products which they're offering. Of course, if some SMEs, and this is actually then also some sort of behavior change or some sort of informing, when some SMEs are already changing their product to a more sustainable way, then of course they will also speak about this. They will make advertisement about this. And I think, for example, also with the carbon footprint and with some other points which we have, I think there are a lot of indicators which already can be used really to advertise your product, which is also helping once again for the consumers to understand better, okay, now if I buy this product, it's better for the environment than if I buy this product with 3 different types of plastic in it.
And if I just can add to that, I mean, Dennis, completely agree with you. I think it's important. I think communication is essential and is key, sort of to say and inform the consumer of sort of the effects or the impacts that their choices are making. So by choosing a product that is less sustainable, what is the repercussion in the environment and sort of your community as large? So I think it's important to show that message, or at the same time, if you're doing something positive, how you're actually adding a positive effect to the economy and the environment. And then we're looking also at potentially being a facilitator, I would say, a facilitator for the consumer to be more sustainable. So how can we do that? Can we implement systems, for example, that they're take-back schemes? So provide an incentive of a product. So when the customer is finished with that, then they can send it back to you and they might have some kind of reward It's also that creating some kind of like brand, I would say, loyalty. Your consumer will come back to you again and again because you provided that incentive. But then it's good for the business because that's the way you can sort of recover materials that you can repurpose and reuse, and it will minimize your costs. So again, it makes sense that take-back schemes, reverse logistics, that they're becoming quite popular. And looking at that, for example, even when we're looking at packaging, so how can you recover your packaging as well so you can then reuse it and then incentivize the consumer? And now this is going to take a long time because behavior change doesn't happen overnight. But I think we need to think about small steps and large vision for the future, really, because again, if we keep sort of talking about that impact that we're making with our choices today, we become more conscious, and it's important that citizens and consumers have that vision too.
Thank you. You both really laid out a compelling opportunity for businesses and for consumers to benefit in the move towards a circular economy. I'm curious if you could speak about some of the challenges in facing towards moving towards a circular economy, and what are the greatest points of leverage in addressing those challenges? This comes from Ben from Building Markets, one of our audience members.
Sure, I can start with that. So a little bit touching on sort of, Dennis already talked a little bit about some of those barriers and the sector, the organizations and companies and SMEs face towards a transition to a circular economy. I think technical capabilities or knowledge, it can be one, and Dennis, you talked about this, but it is important that more knowledge shared and more information, more training is directed through information, because for example, the circular economy business models are sometimes very simple. And we have many examples. For example, talking about plastic waste, the things you can do with it, something that potentially feels that has no value. Can you upcycle? Always think about the waste hierarchy. So first of all, we're going to reduce, but we're going to try to maximize the value of materials. The last option will always be recycling. So I think in sort of positive messages that encourage that sort of knowledge sharing between good practice and informing more companies, like I said, they don't have to change overnight. So smaller steps and understanding what makes the biggest impact, as opposed to sort of trying to transform absolutely everything. So I would say that's that. And the obvious that we always talk about is financing, lack of financing. Sometimes we find that we might want to purchase materials that they are more sustainable. And often this can be more expensive. So when you sort of have to have, when you MSMEs sometimes and startups, they just worry about getting through another month as opposed to sort of having a very long-term vision. They don't have the luxury to do that. So more financing needs to be directed to promote that sustainable development within those organizations.
Yeah, Eva already summed it up or answered the question very detailed. I just want to add one point, which actually Eva already stated, but I want to say it maybe a little bit more clearly about, definitely to speak very frankly, the price is also, like, for me, one of the biggest challenges. What we are always facing when we are giving a new packaging idea or something to the SMEs, I'm talking about packaging again, because this is somehow a big implementation point in Myanmar. It's always about the price. Sometimes the price of the product is becoming slightly higher, which makes the product, compared with other competitors who are offering the same product, which makes the product unattractive for the consumer because it's higher. The price is becoming higher than the product of the other consumers. So therefore, I think there is also how to face this challenge. I think there also needs to be some regulations from the governments, maybe not too much, but some regulations there should be, that everybody is playing with the same cards and that it's a fair game, let's say like this. And I think if we can also get here more input or more help, then it will definitely help.
Thank you. We have a question from Yusuf Al-Mustafa, who asks about how we can motivate donors and humanitarian organizations to consider the circular economy when they design interventions. And he's specifically asking, I think the question is really important across the board for interventions, but he's specifically asking about interventions for refugees and internally displaced people and livelihood projects and SME related enterprises. But I think, in your context, what could be interesting is motivating donors and humanitarian organizations to consider the circular economy.
I can start by perhaps mentioning, so from a point of view of a donor, it's about aligning what their objectives are. So if the donor has an objective to reduce poverty, how can you build a business case that through the circular economy, by promoting job creation, you will reduce poverty? Refugees or potentially displaced communities, then they will benefit by creating more jobs that will fuel the economy. And we talked earlier about 70% of GDP creation. So what is the donor's objective? Is the donor objective to reduce waste? Then focus on how through the circular economy that you build a business case that you're going to be reducing waste. And you can quantify it by saying, if we sort of, invest so much in promoting X numbers of business, 1,000 new SMEs that they're going to be dedicating to more recycling, reduction of waste, the impact is massive. And then it's about that. It's about bringing some figures, some quantifying and qualitative data as well. It's good to have both, I will say. But I would say it is that matching those expectations of the donors and see how you can link what the circular economy can do to reach those objectives.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Eva on this point. It will also, besides pushing the circular economy forward, it will also help to create jobs, which will help the refugees to better integrate themselves in the area or in the society where they are then right now. Also, I think that would be a good approach. Also I also want to give a very short practical example. We did something similar in Myanmar actually already, which is actually a very easy action, but which was super successful. We had some laid off garment workers due to the COVID, as you know, due to the pandemic, the factories had really difficulties. The orders were going down and it was difficult to export. So many garment factories laid off their workers. And we were able to train actually 10 of these laid off garment workers. And it was a very easy training. We bought for each of them, we bought like a mold where they can put up cartonnage and where they can mold some egg boxes. And we trained them on this, and then we also trained them how to create a business and how to manage a very small business. And then actually they started their own business. They collected the carton boxes from beer stations around the areas where they are living, and then they fold these egg boxes. And we support them also to find the customers, like some organic farms or something who don't wanted to use plastic packs for their eggs, who wanted to use locally crafted carton boxes. And now they got orders until 2025. Also, even when my project is finished, they will be still busy making their egg boxes, and they can live with this. Also, they are earning slightly more than what they earned before in the garment factory, and they are actually doing their own business. So this is a very easy task, or this is a very easy example. Of course, it's nothing complicated, but what I wanted to say with this is that there are possibilities, and we have to see really how we can integrate then these refugees or these displaced people in the society, how to give them how to give them a dignity and how to give them life back, where they can be also proud about their place in the society, then I think that's the best way to create some jobs in the circular economy for these people. Yeah.
Thanks. That's a great example, and it's nice to be able to hear like a real life example from your project. So thanks for sharing that. We've touched on it throughout your comments, and thinking about the role of SMEs, thinking about the working with donors, humanitarian organizations. But I'd love any like additional thoughts on what partnerships are needed in order to advance the circular economy.
I would say the partnerships are key, are super important at all levels. And I think I touch upon that a little bit on my presentation, thinking about the financial sector that's going to drive more investment, as well as donors, as well as we just mentioned now. This is really important that the right financing is there to create those jobs. And Dennis, you mentioned that. You mentioned about creating jobs, but they're not just about creating jobs. It's quality jobs and decent employment for people. So that's super important. So that can be done through the collaboration of NGOs and private organizations that they're going to work together. And also, how can we drive policy forward? How can we strengthen trade for the circular economy and remove borders for trade? So, so it's easier for secondhand goods and products and secondary materials to actually, for those people to actually be able to export in a much easier way. So it's about removing barriers. And so here we need the public sector and governments to sort of ease up that on those regulations and regulatory environments. So yes, there is a question about strengthening multilateral partnerships as well to drive the economy forward.
Here also I want to say the one slide actually which Eva Morales, which she shared on her presentation, there we could see that every stakeholder, let's say, is connected with each other and everybody has his role to play. And I think it's also important that the partnerships become more close, that the different stakeholders, let's say the governments, the NGOs, but also of course the SMEs, the consumers, that everybody is working more closely on this subject. To make a circular economy. Actually, everybody has to also partner up more together and cooperate with each other more to make it really happen. Because right now we are in this trap of this linear economy, actually, which is where we are providing every year and every season with new garments, new products, and more and more and cheaper, and we cannot continue like this. Simply, we don't have enough resources to continue like this. So we have to all work together to change actually our behavior, how we lived until now.
Thank you. This has been a really exciting discussion. I am newer to the circular economy, so I feel like this was a really great framework. And I know many of our attendees probably are as well, to start thinking about the importance of it, the role of SMEs in the circular economy, and then the importance of these partnerships. So I really appreciate you both taking the time to tell us more about your work, answer some of our questions, and really have this discussion. So Dennis, we look forward to hearing more about your successes in Myanmar, and Eva, look forward to more of your great business insights. For our audience members, we'll be putting this discussion on YouTube, so you can share this with your colleagues, and be on the lookout for Building Market's new Circular Economy Toolkit for small businesses that's being released later this month. We greatly appreciate the time you all took to join us today, and we look forward to a continued discussion on the circular economy. Thank you all.
Thank you, Alison.
Thank you, Alison.